One, and welcome to our special council meeting for today, the 29th of August. And we'll start off with the call to order. And we'll call this meeting to order at 10:06. I'm adding something new into the agenda, and I thought I would just mention that regarding different types of council meetings. Regular council meetings are open for the public to attend. As a resident or ratepayer, you can only speak at the council meeting if you have requested so by a delegation. Public meetings are open to the public, and in this venue where ratepayers can have their say on certain topics. Planning applications are dealt with in a public meeting, and sometimes council holds public meetings to get the public's opinion on a specific matter. Closed meetings are closed to the public and are allowed under section 239(2) of the Municipal Act SO 2001 as amended. So just for clarification, today's meeting would be considered a regular meeting and public are welcome to attend. Territorial land acknowledgement. Before our meeting gets underway, I would like to formally recognize the traditional keepers of this land and specifically our neighbors of the Elderville First Nation with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge the township of Allen-McCullum is located on the Mississauga-Nashawinipiq territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga-Nashawinipiq. The township of Allen-McCullum respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga nations are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and the integrity for generations to come. Item 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Seeing none, that'll be recorded. Item 4, approval of the agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda for the special council session of Tuesday, August 29th, 2023 be approved as circulated. Did I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover and seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. All in favor?
Question.
Yes.
I thought you mentioned that you were adding something to the agenda.
Yes, that's what I read off the.
Sorry, so shouldn't we be passing it as amended or something like that?
Okay. You're gonna make, well, let's get this one back and then we come back to it, or can we do that? As amended, okay. Okay, all in favor? Motion is carried with the amendment. And number 5 is the committee reports. 5-1, Oliver Memorial Arena, next steps. And I guess, Brian, are you going to take us through where we are so far? Well, no, not the recommendation, but just go through I'll read off the recommendation when it comes time to do that, but you can read it off, doesn't matter. Well, do you want to take us through this report? Please? Or Jennifer, or whatever, or you can do it together.
I don't think that's gonna pick up Jennifer's voice. I switched seats with him.
That's all right. Looks like the Baptist of the holiday too, did they?
I guess so. Yeah, thank you. So through you, Mayor Logo. So this report is to provide some information on where the township currently stands with the Haldeman Memorial Arena and options on how to move forward. So I'm starting at kind of step one here. We look back at our Parks Master Plan with the final report, which was completed in 2018. And the Parks Master Plan is a 20-year planning document to guide the prioritization of municipal investment in recreation and community facilities, parks, open spaces, trails, and water access areas. You can see the full project overview in the report there. Pages 16 through 20 of that plan address the Haldeman Memorial Arena. The recommendation that comes out of that plan is that the township invest in a new single pad arena as part of the multi-use community facility over the short term. Based on that recommendation, they've given recommendations on how to move forward with that plan. You can see those in the report there. The first one is to undertake a detailed site assessment and feasibility analysis for a new replacement single pad at the existing Haldeman Memorial Arena site. So while the Parks Master Plan was adopted in 2018, Council has since not provided directions on how to move forward with that recommendation outlined in the plan and the next steps that were listed above. So options on how to move forward. So Council to provide direction on either moving forward with the recommendation and next steps outlined in the Parks Master Plan, or revise the Parks Master Plan and determine next steps for the Haldeman Memorial Arena. And I have just some points there for consideration. One is, at what point in the decision-making process will the township garner public input? 2, what ways will the public be able to participate in providing input and who will facilitate this? And 3, what role What will the role of the Parks, Recreation, Culture, and Community Development Committee be in this process?
Thank you. You want to comment? Brian?
No, just going on what Jennifer mentioned, we talked about this last week, and I guess just those points of how council wants to move forward, like we have the old report here and stuff and the public input, so we just, as far as staff and moving forward, we just like to have, I think it's gonna be a good conversation this morning about, how we are gonna move forward, so.
You mentioned a public input. Did we have any official public input? Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, I did it. Go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Logo, just the public input that was done at the time of this Parks Master Plan. So that would have been 2017, 2018.
Pat, do you have any comments regarding this? Okay, anybody else from staff have any comments? Just to get started. Okay, first of all, I guess we need a mover and a seconder. I'll read the resolution first. Be it resolved, the council of the township of Alma Haldeman receive and file the Haldeman Memorial Arena next steps and further that council direction is required. If I get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Mike. And seconded by Greg. Mike, you will have the first, after I take my opportunity, you'll have the first time opportunity to speak. Greg, you'll be second. Anybody else want to discuss or talk about this subject? Deputy Mayor Stover. Mary Catherine O'Neill, Councillor O'Neill, okay. As I looked over the information, there's an awful lot of consultants' reports. Starting back in 2009, 2010. So this has been an ongoing issue, I would say, that it hasn't been resolved in the past 15 years. And I understand, and I don't blame or I credit staff for bringing this to us, because nobody's made the decision over the last 15 years, and I think we have to do that. This group somehow or another. The challenges is how are we going to pay for it? I think that's the biggest. We'd all like to see what we could do, but how are we going to pay for it? So just to remind some of the new people here on council, the Roseneath Fire Hall was built in 2000, finished in 2019. That was a $3 million budget, roughly. I don't have the exact figures, but I believe it was 3 million. And again, in 2023, we opened, or early 2023, we finished with the building in Centerton, the new public works. And I believe, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's $4 million, roughly $4 million. So that's $7 million that the township has invested in major capital improvements in the last 4 years. There was no funding from the federal or provincial governments on that. We asked and we were told that we don't see that. For an expansion of community services, there is a possibility of some grants becoming available. There is none right now, but there is an opportunity. There could be some funding being relieved by the provincial government sometime in late 2023 or early 2024. What they're suggesting here is a new facility. And I don't know what that's worth. But it's gonna be a fair bit. Whether we can afford that or not, I guess that's why we have Nicole here to help us through that. I think we know that it will cost roughly $2 million to $2.5 million to improve the ice and put in a new floor and an elevator for the second level, as well as, and that covers electrical and mechanical equipment as well. How can we pay for that? Fundraising is one possibility. I do, council knows that we have been approached by an individual who wants to make a sizable contribution to something in the village. And I think that's great, but it probably isn't enough to pay what we need. I think we need to add a community room. This is the largest settlement in the township with no community built facilities here. And I expect in the last decade or so, the village has doubled, not doubled, 50% higher population growth in the last 10 years. And I expect the next 3 to 5 years with, or 5 to 7 years, with 3 new subdivisions going, it'll increase by another 50%, doubling it where it was 10 years ago, which is by far, I believe, the most concentrated building and development that we've had, certainly in the area. I think the community room is needed to promote activities that keep our people healthy. And when I did talk to some of the municipal representatives, that's what they're saying. They really are going to try and support communities that engage the public in activities and that will help them keep them in their homes longer and just keep them more active. And some of the things that we've already had is like in the summer, we have that track that people are using their pathway, I should say, and the exercise equipment. So we're on the right track to what they're doing. And that was through some provincial help as well. So that community room could be used for, in my opinion, yoga, pickleball, shuffleboard, cooking, some of the things that we're doing, cards and general meetings for the public to just have a meeting place. But as important, or maybe even more important, is we don't have the right term is relief where residents can go for hydro outages, heating, that that they may not be able to get with their hydro if their hydro is down, as well as cooling centers. And we all know about the issue we had last Christmas when the highway was down and the roads were down and Colborne was taking on residents. I believe Coburg did too, but we have very little place that we can send people, and they need to get off the roads. And I think that will be a good opportunity to promote that. And when we go to the feds for some assistance, feds and provincial systems. The other thing that I know other communities are doing is weight rooms for fitness. And if we were going to build a new arena, we should put a track around it. There's also been mention of a new library. And I think that's got to be considered as well, although we do have 3 active libraries in the community now, but maybe another one is required. I don't think another one is required though, because we've already got 3 for a population of 7,500, which is much more than other municipalities in our area have, and I believe across the province too. I think that in discussing with the CAO Pat, we've got to, first of all, find out what the people want, and that's the only way you can do that is with public consultants. And we got to find out what the costs are due, and which is the chicken or the egg here, which one you do first. I don't know. I got a feeling, but I don't know that for sure. But that project manager, if that's what we decide. The other thing that Pat has said, we don't, and I agree with her 100%, we don't have the staff here available to carry on and look at this project. And that's going to take a lot of work. So we probably need to hire a project manager who would hold those public meetings. And that person would be probably needed to issue RFPs and RFQs to find out what they're recommending, and then report to council on a regular basis. And that person may be required for short term for the probably over the long term, maybe 2 to 3 years. But at least on the short term, that would be to get the project started with the public works or public meetings and the RFQs, and then you'd probably be back away from it. And if it's a go, after you get all of the grants and all of that type of stuff put into place, then you'd hire that person to start and complete the project. So that's my thoughts. Mike?
Thanks through you, Mayor Lowell. So I agree a lot with a lot of your statements, and just to add to them is that, like, you know, I know we pay big money for consultants, and I think as a council we know what we need for the arena, or maybe there's some different ideas of how that has to go. But the importance for that arena in this community is very big for what we have here, not just for kids, parents, grandparents, and that use that facility to go watch kids play hockey, and also with the Ball Diamonds. But for the arena purposes, it's a viable for getting new families in here. We have to have something for them to offer them. And so to me, it's not a question of, you know, is the arena needed? Yes, it is. Whether we can afford to put a new one in there, in my opinion, I don't think we can, not in this future. And to spend the money to refurbish it, maybe if we can get some grants to add on some of these new rooms to the side of it or something, a weight exercise room, facility for emergencies and stuff. But to rip it down and replace it, honestly, in my opinion, I don't think we're in a position where we can afford that. You know, with the debentures that we got out now, our tax base. And if anybody thinks that we can't afford that, then they better think about what we want to do with developments in this municipality. So, so I look at what we can afford. And I think it's probably viable that we can afford to put a new ice surface in there and hopefully get some grants, and with some donations and some community involvement to put that together. And that whole report here that Jennifer has, it really talks about the importance of that arena here in Alma Coleman for the whole area, and how it's set where it's set in off the 401 for people to come here to use, for people through the county to get here to use that arena. People that we rent it out to are from out of town. Some teams are out of town and stuff. So that arena is in like a prime spot in the county, not just for our own township. And so for anybody to think that that's gonna go is probably a bad decision. So I think we need to put together, if we can get grants, work with that. And I'm not for putting a lot of money out for consultants, because I think we really know what we need to do, and just hire the people to get that done and put that together. Public information and public meetings, yes, I believe in all that stuff needs to be done, but I think we really need to look at refurbishing that arena and bringing it up to some standards and making it even more viable for this municipality for attracting new families into our municipality.
Anything else, Mike?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Greg?
Hear me, can you? Here we go. So this has been a long issue that even with the past council has been going on. And like you said, John, since way, way back. And after reading all this stuff and reading it over from before, I see there's 4 options that we basically have. Number 1, we can do nothing, which is what all past councils have done. And we just sit and don't make a decision. And then eventually the decision will be made for us when you can't start the ice up anymore. And then we're going to be left with a big problem, right? Number 2, we could repair the floor, the boards and the glass. And we're talking, it's probably 2 million to who knows, maybe even up to 3 million now with the price changes and everything since the prices that we've got. We could build new, which is what's sort of suggesting in here, but I don't see you building new without that costing at least 10 to 15 million dollars. Just looking on the internet last night at all these new places that are building arenas, most of them are double pads like Peterborough and things like that. They're 40, 50 million dollars, right? So I can't see even a single pad is probably at least 10 to 20 million dollars by the time. And I agree with Councillor Ainsworth. I don't think we can afford that, right? Or 4, we could fix the arena and then renovate or refurbish, add a room or, add some additions to it or something like that. So I'm not quite sure. I don't think we can afford a new one. I mean, and maybe the treasurer can advise differently, but as you noted, Mr. Mayor, that we're still paying off the Roseneath Fire Hall, we're paying off the Works Yard, and then if we were to add something like another $15 million to it, I don't even know whether we could even, is that a possibility, Nicole, of 10, 15 million dollars? What would we be allowed to debenture? So I guess where I'm leaning, and I'm still open on this, and I'm willing to listen to all the other councillors and the mayor to see, which way to go, but I'm leaning on number 2, which is let's repair it. If we know the cost is somewhere around $2 to $3 million, and we have a member of the public that has come forward and willing to make a large donation, then maybe we need to fundraise or whatever and apply for grants or whatever. But if we repair the floor and the boards and the glass, the next time that has to be done, everybody in this room will be long gone. If we get another, 25, 30 years out of it. So, and one of the ideas, and I guess it depends on what we do, but if you're keeping the ice, my past employer, when they wanted to build 2 arenas, added on, and it was divided with the public, that some of the public said no, they don't want it on their taxes, and then there was the hockey players and everybody that wanted it. What the town did instead is they put a surcharge on the ice. So talking to Matt today, if we're charging $130 an hour right now for ice, which is well below what everybody else is, we probably add a $20 an hour surcharge on that. So it would be $150, and that $20 that is added on to every hour of ice goes towards paying off the debt for this. So that $20 comes right off no matter what, whoever, doesn't matter. You're not going to get the user groups arguing about the $20 because they're getting a brand new floor and everything, and that money goes towards paying it. So that's where I'm leaning forward to, but I am open to listening to everybody's idea.
Greg, can you confirm, number 1 was nothing, number 2 was repair, number 3 was replace, and what was number 4?
Was renovate, like fix the floor and everything, and then like Mike said, refurbish, add some rooms or additions or stuff like that. So still fix it, but then looking at adding to the facility. And maybe one comment, and I could be wrong, Matt, but when I worked there years ago, I don't think the building is in that bad a shape. I know the ice floor is pretty bad, but the dressing rooms and the roof and the structure of the building and things like that, I don't think they're huge cost to that, because Chris Kerwin before you and yourself, Matt, have been every year we fix a little bit or do something. So it's not like it's just a barn there, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is the building in terrible shape or no? And the dressing rooms being small, well, that's standard with all old rinks, right? Okay, thank you.
Like what Matt said there, yeah, the dressing rooms are small, similar to other older rinks. But again, if counts, like I think the one you're talking about, number 4 is actually number 2, plus adding the rooms to like number 2 was fix the floor and all the freon, the concrete, the boards and glass and all stuff. And then that's number 4 plus adding the building, the rooms to is what you're saying basically, right? Just to.
If they went number
Yeah.
4 would be fix the arena. And then if we were looking at adding a weight room or a track or whatever it is, I don't know,
Yeah.
a library or whatever to it, or offices, that's a possibility, right?
Because like moving forward, if that was one of the council seats to go with like number 2 for that, like I think Grafton's arena has a purpose, like currently right now for house league teams, smaller teams, some men's hockey, but the bigger tournaments and stuff like that, that they're bigger and stuff, they're gonna play at the Coburg, they're gonna play at the CCC there, they're gonna play in Colburn and stuff like that, but I think this current arena, and if you were to do floor, would still be a good for the smaller kids teams, right up to, Pee Wee band, if you get a dressing full of midgets or juveniles, or whatever the new terms or names of the teams are now, they're larger than the other centers, but I think that size of floor and as well as the rooms, it serves a purpose for what this community can provide for like that. They still need those type of rinks. There's still lots of them around and stuff like that other municipalities in the same boat as us aren't looking for the brand new 10 to $50 million rink, but want to renovate, keep what we have, good, but serve a purpose for the other little smaller teams. There's still a lot of house league. There's a lot of practices there too from other teams that come out. But the bigger games, they want to be in the bigger centers and nicer centers, like around they have a lot of larger restaurants and hotels and stuff like that. But anyways, that's kind of my thoughts. I don't know if Jen, you want to.
Yeah, just to add on to that, it's not only young children, but I'd say older adults as well, right? So we have a lot of, like you said, adult leagues, and seniors as well that use the ice. So the master plan does suggest doing an NHL sized ice surface, but I would agree with what Brian says, is there's still a lot of value in the size of our rink and a lot of use. Even like this year, I've already taken a lot of contracts already starting for ice. And they do come from, so there's still like rep or elite teams using it, but they use it for practice, right? So for extra ice time. But then it's great for our broom ball leagues and our adult leagues and our minor hockey. So just want to add that.
So to finish a comment is maybe we should be looking at, before we finish off these contracts, is we should be looking at council that we should be adding a surcharge or something effective this year. Why would we wait a year that we might add a $10 or $20 to whatever? The reason, Brian, for our ice still being used in that is the price point too, right? We're much cheaper than Coburg and Baltimore and Keeler Center and ones like that, because they have to pay off these large centers, and we're in a smaller center. So people are like, oh, I'll play a game there. It's, $40 cheaper an hour, $50, which makes big difference over a hockey season, right? But I really think we should be looking at, maybe we add a surcharge, maybe it's small this year or whatever, but just to say, guess what? We know we're going to do something. We have to do something. We're not going to stick with option 1, which is do nothing. And then that decision is going to be made for us eventually, that these Band-Aid repairs that we're putting on there is not going to work, right? And even if we only put the money that we're charging, if it's $10 extra an hour or 20, just to pay for the rink seal that we just put in, that cost us $10,000 or $11,000. You know, if I was a member of the public, I'd be like, why should my tax dollars be going towards that? Maybe that should be paid off that by the users that are using it. So charge them $10 an hour more or 20.
Through your mayor logo, a lot of, a lot of good points. You've taken a lot of my thoughts. Couple of things, before we even start to think about what we're going to do, we have to see what we can financially sustain. And, I know I'm not a big plan of consultants, but moving forward, I think that we need to at least meet with a project manager or some kind of a process, because we all have ideas, and we need to go to somebody that could plan it out, see what we can sustain financially, and what we can afford, obviously, and what we need. And when I look at the list here on page 4, I think that we could whittle that down a bit. And the other thing is, going around the table, what we would like will be different when we go out to the public. So that's part of the puzzle as well. So, I mean, I certainly am not going with option 1, do nothing, because do nothing has got us to where we are right now. So I don't want to do another Band-Aid solution. As you said, Mayor Logo, we are in a growth spurt here. And I don't want to piecemeal things. I would rather have the facility, what we can afford, and move forward from there. And I think that will expedite things. And big component of it is public input as well. When you go to the public with the shovel ready or when the grants are ready for, and we have a shovel ready project where, as you know, it's a lot easier to get funding than having all these ideas floating around in our heads. We really should, if the consensus is to continue on with the arena and fixing it, we really need an update on how much that is going to cost. There's different theories there about one part of the building sinking. I guess that would look after if we were to get down into the floor, but there's too many what ifs, and to move forward, we need to have a plan, and we need to know how much it's going to cost. So that'd be my ideas.
Thank you. Mayor Catherine?
Speaking last, there's been several good points raised, but if we look at the recommendation in front of us, the word feasibility is there. And I don't think we have any idea at this point what is actually feasible. I think we are in a position where, because since 2009, no decision has been made, and the non-decision essentially has been to not invest in the current arena, and then to say all of a sudden we're going to come up with millions of dollars. And we were given the number 2.3 million from Simcoe, but that was for the floor and boards only. It didn't include the electrical. It didn't include accessibility. It doesn't address things like the washrooms and the change rooms, those types of things. So if we looked at that number that was given to us back in 2016, it was 5 million at that time. So I think it's, to your point, Deputy Mayor Stover, we need current numbers. And that 2.3 million didn't include the engineering costs. And those are things that we have to have in place before we can do anything. So we don't have current information on the trends. We don't have our strategic plan completed. We did our SWOT, we did a survey, but that hasn't been brought together. It wasn't specific to this question that we're looking at today. The last time this question was asked specifically was back in 2018. And that's where that report came from that we've got in front of us today. And that report didn't say to keep the arena as is. It said to go ahead and do the feasibility on looking at something new like this. So I would be in support of going ahead with the feasibility study. I think we might need to have more information locally from within, especially with our finances, before we go to an RFP for it. But I think we need to do that. We need to know the trends. We need to know our needs study. We need to know what options we have financially, which I don't think are many. 1% tax increase is only $65,000. That's not going to get us very far on a multi-million-dollar project. We need to be very aware that grants have tick boxes, and we need to make sure that whatever project we move forward with is meeting those tick boxes. And you mentioned some of that in what you were saying there, Local, at the beginning. So yes, I just don't think we have enough information to move ahead today because of the lack of a financial framework to even start this discussion. We don't have, what feedback we have from the community is so dated. What engineering reports we have are so dated that really, for all intents and purposes, we can't use them. So I don't know where that leaves us. I think I don't know where we are. I don't think we've got enough information to make a decision.
I don't suggest that we should make a decision today, but I think we need to get staff some direction as to what we need to make those type of decisions. Nicole, do you have any comments on that?
We're going to need you to come to a microphone, please.
Nicole. Thank you, David.
So a few things going through my head is, I'm listening to some of the numbers that have come out. If you were to go with building a new facility, if we're looking at $10 to $15 million, then how do you raise those funds if that was something that council was going to look at? A debenture is always an option, but that also depends on your annual repayment limit. So the municipality does have a max of what they can repay in a year. We would have to look at that. Whether council and the public want to see us, spending money on interest every year through tax dollars. That's another thing that we need to consider. That's one option. I'm hearing, looking after the ice surface, and maybe that's even an option first. And if council is looking for future to build something new, but not necessarily now, then another thing is to start building into our budget each year to put away into reserves for that rainy day. So if the decision becomes that the ice surface needs to be looked after now, then I would crunch numbers to figure out, okay, how much money are we able to bring in from anonymous donors, fundraising, grants, that sort of thing, and then what portion do we still need to raise? And if the plan is actually twofold and there's a second step in that, then we would start to put away in reserve. So there's definitely a lot of number crunching that still needs to be done. But for me, a couple of things that I would need, and I'm hearing kind of ideas, but whether we're dealing with a $2.2 million project or whether we're dealing with a $15 million project, once I have an idea, and I don't think it makes sense to go to the process, we need to just kind of have a general idea so that at least we can come up with some numbers and have some sort of direction in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that, I guess I guess where we go from here, like we talked about, the council's had a lot of suggestions, the 4 different options. And I know the public is the big one, the feedback from the public. Mayor Catherine, Councilor Neil mentioned about, the feedback being outdated back in 1819. So I think that's important. But then what's important is kind of come up what we'd like to have, what council and the public would like to have, and then you come up with a price kind of thing. And then, like I said, I think the only way you see a project like this, going ahead is with federal, provincial, funding as well to help. So I think we do have one good thing right now. We do, the possibility of some money being donated and whatever that amount is. But, the most usually funding you might get is a third. So, a third from the province, third from the feds, and then municipality picking up the other third. And that would be part of the donations as well. But then having like, fundraising, when I was in another municipality in the early 2000s, they had an Action 2000 committee and they raised a lot of money and got funding from the feds and feds and the provincial as well. And just so they had to come up with a third, but to make it affordable, I think that is going to be key for us to have, back to Councillor Stover's about a shovel ready project. That's when those funding come through the government to us and all that stuff. That's what they're looking for, is the shovel ready projects. And that's what I think this municipality is going to need to make a project like this. Because again, I think I'm just throwing numbers here, but I'm sure we're probably the $5 to $8 million for the for a new floor, the free the brine lines, the boards, the glass. If you're thinking a big emergency shelter room or the gymnasium, the library, the other things mentioned that we're going to get up there in price, and the only way something like that's going to be done is through the help of our governments and stuff like that as well, and from nice donations from the public as well, and maybe some fundraising. So I think it's just coming up with what this council wants and what they're hearing from the public through public consultations of what they want in Grafton, what they want around that arena. And we got to come up with something that we have and then get pricing on it, and then meet with our MPPs and MPs, and when that comes out, tell them how important it is to our municipality and have the backup for that. Say we had public consultations throughout the whole township. This is what we want. But the only way this project is going to even move forward is without the help from both provincial, federal, and probably fundraising and donations as well. And that's my 2 cents on it anyways.
Just a quick comment. I agree that it historically has been third. But some people have also told me that there are occasions where the province and the feds have come up with 90%. But I'm not looking for that, because I don't think those days are still.
Yeah. And they have, I've seen that too as well. And one I think was actually fully funded, and I think those days are long gone. But I think at a bare minimum, I think that's what we need, like a 66%, funding from the feds and the province to, like I said, our debt ratio and all that stuff as well. Like Nicole would have to look at that and stuff, but with the fire hall and our, public works building, and then the wants are quite great in the municipality as well. Just speaking for, the public works departments, we've got aging equipment, you've got roads to do. So any money that's has to be fully funded from taxation is going to hurt the municipality in the long run, I guess, the overall, I guess what I'm trying to say. So I think we really need the public input, council involved a lot, staff involved together as a team. And then, like I said, really research and try to get whatever we come up with is to, press the feds and the province for funding to help this renovation or upgrades go through.
I think what I'll do is give council a opportunity to respond again each, but maybe we'll give Pat and Dave an opportunity to speak a little bit too. You're gonna have to come to the speaker eventually. You want to make a comment, Dave, or I know it's unfair, but if you do have something you want to mention,
No, it's not unfair at all. But I do think that I'd like to just hold comment for a little while. From what I'm hearing around the room. Given the date of the material, I do think that we need to kind of go back to ground zero on it, unfortunately.
thank you. Pat, you have a comment? Yeah, please, or wherever you're comfortable with.
So I do think it's important for the municipality to get the public input, because if you want the public to be behind you in order to do your fundraising, you need to have them buy into the project. And I'm sure there's some things that we as staff or you as council haven't thought of that maybe the public would like to see in this building. And I do think, based on what other staff have said and the council members, that if you could retrofit the existing arena and then build onto it, I think you probably could look at it in maybe phases. So do the floor first, and then maybe do an addition for either your community center or your library or your dressing rooms, update your bathrooms, so that you have a plan, you go forward, and then it's not a big hit all at once.
And I have one question in that. And somebody else has too, but if you were to ask for funding, is it easier to do that in one big swoop? Or as you mentioned, in projects?
So there's a couple ways to look at it. The one is, if you know what you want and the funding is, as Brian said, say 66%, you're better to go with asking for the full amount up front. And when you do apply for the grant, you do have the option of telling them how long it's going to take you to do it. So some of them have to be done within a year, some of them are 3 years, some of them are up to 5 years. It all depends on the project. So if you could let it extend out to 5 years, that would give you an opportunity to continue to fundraise during the construction of the project. Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Logal. If I could just add to what Pat says about funding, there's also, so there's different streams, right? So that would be like a new build stream where you're looking for a large amount and all at once to do a new build. But then, as Pat said, with retrofitting, right, there's grants that we see come across regularly that we may have what we need already study wise to move forward with a retrofit grant, which is less of a burden really than applying for one of those other grants as far as what's required. Would you?
And probably speaking something, go ahead, Pat.
And the other thing is, like your elevator, you can apply for, to the federal government for enabling accessibility fund, and it covers elevators. So there are different grant streams. Sometimes you can't piggyback, it all depends on the grant, but there are other times when you can. You can use the Ontario Trillium Fund, which we've been successful in the past. You can use, depending on what we're applying for, the enabling accessibility. Sometimes the red grant, that's the one we got for the Wicklow Church. Sometimes you can get grants through that, plus the other provincial federal grants that are coming out. So some of them specify you can't piggyback, but others, they just want to be aware of what other funding you've applied for.
And I'll mention maps just so, because I know there's been a lot of talk about accessibility and need to have by 2026.
25, but I think it's going to get pushed.
Well, I not officially, but from the county accessibility coordinator in Northumberland, she said that the province is just not, there's too many projects that have to be done, and instead of having a date for 2025, they're pushing it back to and saying, I'll push it back, there's no date, but they're saying that any retrofitting, if you're gonna do any retrofitting in the building, you must make it accessible. So as far as the elevator goes, you wouldn't have to do anything, but if you want to do something with the building, then that's gotta be on your list of things to do. Mike, do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, it's, so, we've already passed the, getting the leak seal put in, and we're gonna know how that's gonna come here in the very near future. And, so, that's gonna get us going this year. And, if we can put something together for, the items that we're talking about and give staff direction to start looking at these grants and stuff, what we can do. I mean, council has to put together, what we want to say in those grants. And, let's start moving forward with it. I mean, the consensus are we need to fix this arena. We definitely can't afford a new one, not at this time, unless somebody wants to change all their minds and everything on development stuff that wants to go on around here. But I probably don't see that happening. So it's just another can of worms. But I think what we have in front of us is an arena that's special to this township. And, I grew up in that arena. My kids grew up in that arena, and I'm sure there's a lot of people around here that's got grandkids or kids that have done the same thing. And we all know the importance of arena in a small municipality. It's our biggest community center. It's our biggest use, so if we're talking about doing something detrimental to that, we've got a lot of other community centers that are not even half used or half as important as the arena is in this municipality. So I would say that we put our heads together, give staff some direction on these grants and what we'd like to see in this refurbishment with the arena. And I think the first one, Pat had some great ideas. Let's get the ice surface, like get it going for this year and plan for next year to refinish that ice surface and the boards and the glass, get that done. And some projects out in the future to go with. So, but I think those two important ones are getting this arena, getting it going for this year and getting it set up for the spring of 24 to get the ice surface redone.
Does anybody want to comment from staff? I'm just wondering, if 2020, this year, this coming year, I don't have to do anything, are there any concerns?
Through your Mayor Logo. Well, again, like Councilor Ainsworth said, the rink seal has arrived. That's being met in a few weeks, I think, right? By then, yeah, it's going in and stuff like that. So before we fire the plant, again, we're hoping what the Simcoe had said that this will hopefully work for another, put us through another 2 to 3 years. So that we can, have decision time and come up with some new options moving forward. But again, it's a Band-Aid again. It's just to able to use the floor and keep the ice, the floor cold and make ice for the next few years. But it is a temporary fix. So we, now's the time that we got to start the process of coming up with a plan for staff and council to work with and move forward. So again, this is just a Band-Aid to keep the users using the facility and revenue coming in as well.
Thank you. Greg?
Yeah, I guess my only comment would be is if realistically, if you're looking at having the floor and the boards and the glass replaced next year, that's something that RFPs and everything are going to have to come out in early this fall. Like we would have to have staff working on that and doing RFPs and everything, because that kind of stuff is almost like buying a truck in that, right? Simcoe books up really early for doing jobs next year. In fact, they're probably already taking jobs already for next year. So when the ice comes out in April, that's when you want them to start taking the old floor out and everything else. And it gives the board builders time to custom make those boards, because that's not a regular NHL rink or anything. So if we're looking at that option, in 2024, we're going to have to jump on that this fall. Otherwise, if we think it can last till 2025, then that gives you next year doing all that.
Yeah, through your Mayor Logo. Yeah, I would probably say that we're not, we're hoping that the rink seal is going to work for 2 or 3 years. Again, I think the public input still got to be out there first as well. The funding, I think, is kind of, unless council, we don't need the funding, but there's currently no funding out there right now for this. And just having it can be done in stages, like you said, but the big cost and making that building go forward is the the brine pipes underneath, the concrete floor, the boards and the glass and stuff like that. And we know that is gonna cost probably closer to, $2.5 million or something like that. So I don't think we'll be ready for, to do that next year, but again, to get the process, everything does take time. So, it would be nice to get on track with what council and the public would like to see so we can come up with an action plan, I guess, moving forward.
Through your Mayor Local, just it's kind of like a shot in the dark for us right now because we have so many things that have to be done before we can make a decision. So the big thing is the building update on what shape it's in. I think we're at a stage where we have to have a plan and whether we do a phased in approach or and that would give the public some direction on what we're thinking. I'd also like to see some concept drawings of what it could look like, when we go to the public. So I don't want to just see us put everything in to the arena when we need to be looking at other things. So I could, I just at this point, there's just too many variables to make the decision. But I think the first thing is a building update and a phased in approach on what we can sustain financially and go from there. That'd be my thoughts.
And my question would be, do we need all of this information before you have a public meeting?
I think so. I think we need what shape the building's in. And what direction that we would like to go. And I mean, that's just a direction with public input. I think the direction could change, which it's going to be because we'll be listening to them. And I don't think it would hurt to have some kind of a concept drawing on what we're looking at, because everybody else could kind of think what they imagine. But if we have concepts, and I don't know if that through your Mayor Local to Pat, is that something that could be done in-house for concepts, or where would we go to look for that?
You would have to get an engineer to do the concept drawings for you.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no reason why we couldn't approach and get an RFP out and ask for quotes on doing concept drawings. And I think to your point, when you go to the public, it's kind of nice to have something to see, because everybody, like a picture's worth 1,000 words. So
Yeah,
sometimes visually, if somebody can see something, then it helps them grasp the concept more so than if you just talk about it.
that's right. And I mean, I've been to many open houses where they have had concepts and you think, well, yeah, I could get behind that. Right now, just to have public meeting with none of that, it would not expedite the process at all.
Good point. Mayor Catherine?
All right, so I would say that Councillor Booth's list is actually missing one of the options, which is a community center without ice. It would address all of the other items that are listed in this feasibility planning here. And it has some real options and should be investigated. It would be the same amount of capital as replacing the ice, but it would have lower operating costs. And because there's lower operating costs, we would actually have room for debenture funding. Right now, the operating cost for the arena is 195,000, and then work forward into a future phase where we're doing something about the ice. I do have some questions, actually. What happens if the leak seal doesn't work? What if we get a new leak in February? We don't have answers right now. Can the space, if there's no ice in there, can it immediately turn into being used for other things, such as the stuff it's being used for in the summer, the broom ball, the pickleball, those kinds of things? Can it still be a usable space? for us, if that happens with the library, it was interesting, you somewhat addressed my question. The library accessibility was not going to meet 2025, but it looks like from what you're saying there, Logal, that there's going to be some time for them to do something, but it is not an accessible library and it doesn't have the space that's needed. So it wouldn't be a new library, it would be just replacing the one there, is my understanding. We need to look at engineering. I think you're bang on the building update. Where are we? What are the engineers recommending with this space? And anything that's being talked about right now in the middle of a climate crisis needs to be, what's the implications for the environment and the green build here? And then I think you're bang on with, we need the public input, even back. And, you know, Councillor Ainsworth, you and I see this differently. I mean, my kids did play there as well, but, and it's a huge but, I live in the north. My neighbors are using the Baltimore Arena. Some of them are going down to Colburn. I can get to both of those arenas in basically the same amount of time from Centerton as to get to the Grafton one. So, and if you go north from me, they're not using Grafton Arena at all. So I'm very conscious that we can't put all of the recreation budget into one facility that is serving one part of our municipality. So, and I hear this temptation, we can close libraries or close community centers somewhere else and that'll be money for the arena. Well, I don't think we can make that decision at all, because we have to have community centers and libraries that are serving the people that want to use them. And I guess that's where I am right now. I do think we need the feasibility planning. I think that's essential. We don't know what's feasible.
Go ahead.
Through your Mayor Logo, to Pat, who does the feasibility study? Or would that be somebody we hire to do that?
That would be somebody we would hire, and we could again do an RFP to ask for proposals to come in. And then it's not based on who can do it for the cheapest price. It's who can do it that can meet the needs that the township wants. So typically when we do something like that, we do a 2-envelope process. The first envelope is their proposal. The second one is their fee. We don't open the fee one until after we've gone through the proposal. And then we know which one, based on a criteria, is the number one. And then we look at fee. So fee doesn't always dictate.
Through your Mayor Logo to Pat, what do you have a ballpark on what this could cost?
I don't know if Jen does though.
Yes, through you, Mayor Logo, I did reach out to a company who was last used by Port Hope, and they say to ballpark figure any for what you're asking for as far as a detailed site assessment and feasibility analysis, you're looking at 75 to 100,000. Also, just to add that to that too. If we look to some of our neighbors who have done things recently as well, Trent Hills, who in Campbellford, right, is currently building their new community center and arena. And was a 15-year project and multiple studies. You know, the last time they did a study, they said it was around 50,000, but prices have definitely gone up and recently. So just things to consider. Also, if I could just point out, I guess, a couple things from what's currently stated in the master plan. So, you know, they do recommend the feasibility study and that to happen, and site assessment, because what they're suggesting is to keep the current arena in working order as is and investigate building on that site elsewhere, right? Not within that footprint. So just something to consider when you're looking at that recommendation that's in the Parks Master Plan as well.
Well, I think we've kind of listening to everyone. We don't think that we can afford to go new. Do we have consensus on that? Well, you agree?
Certainly today we can't. if we are looking in phases down the road, it might be the feasibility study might say that is the way to go down the road. You've got the Keeler Center that's 20-some years old now. Baltimore's almost the same age. There's going to be 10 years from now, there's going to be needs within our geographic community, not our municipal boundaries necessarily, that might drive this and say, well, phase 3 is. So I don't think I want to say that it's never a possibility, but I agree wholeheartedly that we can't even talk about it today.
Anybody else agree with that?
I think so, yeah.
So I think Jones brought up some good points. It would be nice to have some idea of a conceptual idea of what we're looking at. I think we have to do that. We have to get some idea from a financial standpoint of view. Short term, what does the arena need? And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's $2 million for the boards and the ice and maybe the mechanical equipment. Is that true or not?
Through you, Mayor Logal. So Simcoe gave us a quote to budget between $2 to $3 million for that. The electrical, if it came to council, there's a couple things that came to council at budget time for 2023.
Yeah.
And the electrical was a part of that, and that was 75,000 for the electrical component. So that would be in addition to the 2 to 3 million.
So you're okay. And then that simple one, when was that? That was last year?
No, through you, Mayor Logal, that I don't have the email date in front of us, but that was a recent
In the
quote.
spring.
Matt might have it there. And they did give a breakdown of how that would look. You know, as far as a timeline for the project, as far as what happens in what quarters.
I
Sure,
believe it was May,
it was May.
I believe.
And what was it, Jack? Was it 2 to 3 million? or-
He said he would budget for $2 to $3 million based on a project that they just completed this year and then inflate the cost of inflation.
So, and I think the other portion of this has to be public meeting. And you probably have to get some conceptual idea of where you want to be before we can have the public meeting. Everybody agree with that? Go ahead.
I'm just, and I do agree with, Deputy Mayor Stover about the conceptual plans. If you're having a public meeting so they can actually see what they're, looking at to buy into it and want to get behind it. But then I wonder though too, that to get to that stage of what they actually want or what conceptual drawings we're gonna have, that the public would like to see. I'm just wondering if there's a way to do some kind of, like a reach out thing, like a survey or something like that to find out what interest the municipality and the ratepayers want for an arena so that we can kind of gather that information and then come up with and then bring it back to council. Then council's got to decide. It's all part of the feasibility too. I know they need the feasibility study first, but what we have to have some kind of vision of what we're actually gonna have in conceptual drawings. And I think the feasibilities and the public input is a part of that, I guess. It's kind of a
First stage.
yes, I guess that's.
What's the first stage?
Well, I guess, like I said, come up with drawings, not like we get to the part, we're gonna have a public conceptual drawings to show the public. We kind of got to know what's in those conceptual drawings. And I think we need to know where council and what the public kind of wants or some options. And then it does come down to council. These are the ones that have been, tasked by, representing your constituents, all the ratepayers to make those decisions on what we're going with. But you do want some kind of, you do want the feedback from the public as well and stuff like that before you come up with drawings, I guess that's my.
But what's really, I think what we're asking for conceptual was the existing arena. And perhaps a muscle room or whatever you call it, weightlifting room and a room of multi-purpose room.
Yeah, sorry, I guess if that's what council, if you know what you want, then that's fine. I guess I just want to make sure we know what we're talking about though.
Through you, Mayor Logo. So it might be good to have like a, you know, just like an eraser board or an Excel board or something here set up so we can just kind of put some things on it. Maybe this is another meeting that has to happen through this group here. And just put down some steps, you know, where we want to start this year and what we want to do with the arena and how we need to put in the look for grants and stuff, and just kind of give us something to look at. And because we've been bouncing a lot of stuff around here, and I think most of us are talking about the same thing. But if we could put it on some paper, so we could all kind of look at it, and that would give us a direction for staff and for council.
What do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I think it's important for you to get your public input, so
Yeah.
staff could even bring back a list of items or your next steps where we would go from. And then council can decide that, yes, that's the avenue you want to venture down,
Yeah.
so.
And then we can start setting some dates and some meetings and stuff up and get it going.
Here, Catherine?
I just come back to what's sitting in front of us today, which is feasibility analysis for options, including a multi-use community facility. I think that's the direction, but I don't think we can move ahead with the feasibility study until we have some sort of financial framework to say, yeah, I mean, it's wonderful to say we want to do all these things, but if we're sitting there with reserves, which we are, of 200,000, and we've got a bill of 3 million, there's a problem. We can say whatever we like, but there's a problem.
Yeah, so Nicole could bring back a financial analysis based on what funding we have available through the reserves, and we have been keeping our eye out for any kind of grants, and I know there isn't anything available now, but there could be in the future, so but you can't bank on maybes.
Yeah.
So I think council has knows what we need from staff. But maybe you gotta put a little bit more to, give me something.
So it's my understanding that you want Nicole to bring back some financial information.
Yes.
Okay, then we want to do a feasibility study. We want to look at maybe getting public input based on surveys. And then do a conceptual drawing and then take that to the public for public input. Is that the direction council wants to go?
That's the way I think it should.
Yeah.
You're Catherine?
I agree. I don't know how much the feasibility study encompasses some of those other things, but I do think we need a second discussion after we finish this of what do we do if the rig seal doesn't work? Or if we get another leak or another breakdown. I mean, I think we need to have a plan.
Well. Go ahead, then.
Through you, Mayor Lobo, I'm cautious on the feasibility study for $100,000. I think as a group, we can make a decision where we want to go with the arena and bring the people in that we need to make that happen. You know, spending $100,000 for a feasibility study that we already know, if we already know what we need to do, let's just do it and put the proper people in place to make that happen. We could certainly use that 100,000 or 75,000 in making that arena a better arena and better for the community. So I just caution on spending that money on that.
What will the feasibility study give us?
Jen can answer.
Well, you put it out, you would put it out to tender, right, what you're looking for, but the recommendation that's currently in here for a feasibility study is going to include some of those things that you talked about. So I think it would include your concept drawings, right? It would include your public input, and it would give you options to move forward based on, right, all of the work that they're going to put in, studies, public consultation, all of those things, right, into what your feasibility planning document then becomes. I think it is an important step as far as getting it done, especially if we do want to go out for grants. And it doesn't necessarily even, like, you could still, if it comes back and it's still gonna be implemented in phases, or you're still going to look at what comes back and decide, okay, well, we're doing a scaled down version of this. If it's decided then that we can't support what it is, but it's hiring consultants to do all of that work for the township, right? To figure that out. My concern is if we don't hire a feasibility study, who on staff is managing the scale of that project? Because these consultants come in, right, and that is their only thing that they are focusing on. And that's my concern, is if we don't do that, who on staff can take that workload on in a timely fashion?
Yeah, and I think I'll just add to Jen's, with the feasibility study, we put that out, we would, tell the consultant that would take on this project that, and they realize we're a small municipality, that we'd like to have options in that report as well. We just can't have one thing given to us, I guess, that's then put us back to where we are again. That's something we can't afford, or, there just needs to be different options in that and stuff like that. So I think that's very important that, along with whoever's hired, that staff and council work with the consultant to make sure there is options, I guess, that are that can be affordable for the township. Okay.
Yeah, that you would set parameters, right?
And they would handle all of the public input and all of that. Type of stuff.
It's my
Because we don't want to get in, council doesn't want to get into that, I don't think.
We don't have the ability to make those decisions.
Yeah, but I think it has to be done. Public Works. So Mike, just to respond to yours, my thought is, I don't like spending money on consultants and that type of stuff too, but we don't have the expertise here to do it. And I think before we decide to make those type of commitments, we need to have good public input and some plan to show people.
Through your Mayor Lobo, Jen, did you mention that the feasibility study would look at the arena and look at the state it's in and the repairs or whatever it would need? Would that encompass that as well?
Through you, Mayor Little, you could make that part of it, right? When you're going out and asking for this. I just lost the train of thought.
Yeah, I think that would have to be in there, because then you gotta come up with the different options. Like I said, if they did, like, Matt has said, and we believe that the arena is in great shape and stuff like that, but we definitely know that the floor's not, and we got the refrigeration lines, and Brian, that's a problem. But maybe it's not and stuff like that. Maybe the structure just isn't, stuff like that. So I think we need to have everything laid out here. We're talking significant funds, so I guess we got to make sure the building is what it is, and moving forward, we have trained professionals look at it again and stuff like that to make sure that we're bringing back or recommending to council and the public what state the building's in. It's kind of.
Yeah, sorry, I remembered what I was gonna add to that. Sometimes that happens. So where we are with this project, and is that, yeah, we completed step one, which was completing a master plan, right? And that was done in 2017, the initial kind of gathering of that information and going out for that public input, and all of that was done in 2017. Final report came to council in 2018. And that's where we've kind of stayed. The next step from this master plan to address this issue is recommended to do a feasibility study. So you've done your master plan. This is the recommendation that came out of it. The next step to be able to move forward is a feasibility plan and study. So that's just what I wanted to.
Through your Mayor Logo, I think, I don't know, when I use this phrase, it's a necessary evil, because to put that money out. But if we haven't done the feasibility study and had professionals provide us with the documents we need, if we don't have that, then we're going to be behind the 8 ball when we start applying for these grants, because they're going to say, well, how do you know that? Who told you that? So, I mean, these are all professionals, and I really think that's the way to go. Plus, these people do this all the time, and with providing concepts, what we have in our mind for buildings, it might be, they may be able to come up with more cost-effective buildings when we're talking about, you know, a community area and fitness areas. So, I mean, we don't have the expertise. These people, this is what they do. So I really think that's what we have to do. And it would encompass all the questions that were, the answers that we're asking today. And I mean, without doing that, we're just going to stagnate. We're not going to be able to move forward.
Are you willing to make a motion that we?
I will.
Can I get a seconder for to spend, to do a feasibility study? Second by Mary Catherine, all in favor?
Discussion.
Oh,
Discussion, pardon me.
discussion.
I'm totally against that, and I'm gonna tell you why. We've spent thousands and thousands of dollars in the past on studies. And I agree with what Councillor Ainsworth said. You need that study if you're looking at something other than what's there now. If we're looking at just repairing the floor and the glass and the boards, we don't need to pay somebody $75,000 to tell us how to do that. That's easily done. That's done every year in rinks all around. And Matt, you've probably been in rinks. In fact, you were probably up at Baltimore when they did theirs or whatever. I'm not going to spend $50,000 to $100,000 having somebody come in here and tell me that your floor is no good, your building is this, that. They did a whole building study in 2018 and told us what was wrong with the building. I'm not paying somebody more money like that. If we agree as a council to go down the road that we're looking at something other than what we have there, then I agree. You need to do a feasibility study, but not if one of our options right now is just to repair. No way.
Mary Catherine?
I don't think our best option is to just repair. I think it's a cost we can't afford at this point. I think it's going to be the most difficult and challenging for us to get funding for. And I don't think it best serves the community. I speak for the people who do not use the arena and want their community room. I was very active part of this Parks Master Plan. And, you know, I left the meeting before the final report was written where they did the interim report. And all I knew when I left that meeting is we were going to have some great indoor walking facility, because that was the only thing there was consensus on within the room. And anyway, what is feasible and what are our needs right now? I don't think we understand our needs right now. We've got all of these new people, as you stated, Mayor Logo, who are moving in. They're in general older people, which the smaller ice is an advantage for the older people. But is that really what this community needs? And our public input is needed. I'm not prepared to say that's the path we want to go down today, is just to fix an old facility, because I don't think moving forward for the next 25 years, and I'm making a decision today that is going to impact people 25 years down the road, that I don't think we just make that decision and say, well, that's the best thing for the next 25 years without getting the professional advice that you have pointed out we should have.
Go ahead.
Through your Mayor Logo. Councillor Booth said we've spent a lot of money on studies. How much have we spent?
Well, that 218 report, which did a whole study on the Grafton Arena and shows in there. I don't know what it cost, but probably I'm going to say $40,000 or $50,000. How many studies over the past few councils, John? You've been on councils. How many studies have come up about, you know, and we do nothing. We look at them. If you vote for the feasibility study today, that means you're voting for that we're not going to repair the rink. And I thought we weren't going to make that decision today, because if you're going to spend $100,000 for somebody to tell you that, guess what, the feasibility study is we're going to keep that arena there, we're going to build over here, we're going to this, that, and everything, then you're going down the $1 million road that we just said a few minutes ago we can't afford. So I'm not in favor of spending another dime on a feasibility study. Like when Councillor Ainsworth said, we know what needs to be done. If we decide as a council that we're going to fix it, we don't need to pay somebody $75,000 to tell us about the rest of the building.
Mike next.
through you, Mayor Lowe. And you know what, and like, and also maybe 25 years, we might have 15,000 residents here that we have a more of a tax base to support some different things that are coming up in this meeting today. But right now, we have what we have. Right? We have a beautiful historic arena there, probably not many of them left in Ontario. And it is in great shape. The study says it is. I know the study's a few years old, but I can't see that thing having any other changes to it, you know, other than maybe a coat of paint here and there. And it's an important aspect in this municipality. Putting a new one there would never have the same feeling to it as to some of the residents in this town. So the 100%, I do not want to spend one penny on another feasibility study. We know in this room today that we need to fix that floor and the boards and all the stuff that has to go with it. That's what we should be focusing on. And if we can give staff some direction for in the future to add on different rooms, exercise room, new bathrooms, or fix up the old bathrooms or renovate, then that's the kind of stuff that we need to do. That base of the arena is what we got to deal with today and what we can afford.
Any further comment?
I may be talking myself into withdrawing this motion, but I sure as heck am not here today saying that we're replacing that arena. We paid $50,000 or whatever it was for this study. This study did not say to replace the existing arena. When you read that, in no way it said that it is not their recommendation. And then here you are saying, well, I don't care what the public said at that point. I don't care what the professionals said at that point. I want the arena. Well, I'm not prepared to be part of decision-making that ignores all of the work that has been done. And I'm not prepared to be part of a decision that doesn't look at where we are now today. I think we need to know where we are today, and we do not.
Mike?
So I just did 8,000 miles in a month, traveling through the States and through Canada. And being a counselor, every time you go through a town, you kind of look and evaluate what they got and what we don't have. And most of the towns that you go through are small enough that you can pretty much see everything. And every one of them have an arena. Some of them have a curling rink. And some of them are old, some of them are new, whatever they can afford. It's the arena, to me, is like in a base of your community. When people are coming in, new families are coming in, what do the kids got to do? How many kids want to go and play in that playground down there versus put a pair of hockey skates on and a hockey stick in their hand, or a figure skating, or broom ball, or, you know, power skating and all that kind of stuff in the wintertime? You know, so that arena is valuable to this community, and we need to fix that arena.
Go ahead.
I'm through your logo. I'm not prepared to vote on whether we repair the arena today without public input. Because we're looking at probably $3 million to refurbish that. I'd like to know how much that 2018 study was and how much it cost. Because in that $2 to $3 million or $2.5 million to $3 million from, is it Cisco or is that the food? Oh, Cisco. The Cisco's the food people. They went in and looked at that. So right now, I want to go to the people and say, we're looking at a $3 million repair to keep that arena like that. So I want to know what the people think before I put my hand up to say that I'm going to repair the arena, because I don't know that.
We have a motion. Oh, you have another comment?
Just the one comment is the motion that you're making right now, Deputy Mayor, is saying that we're going to do a feasibility study, which means the repair is out the window then.
Might be.
And I think it's a total waste of money. And I agree with what Councillor Ainsworth is saying. We've spent too much money on this. We need to make the decision, and rightfully so, what you said, Mary Catherine, is what are we doing? Are we going to repair it, or are we looking for something new? If we agree as a council, we're looking at something other than what's there, then the feasibility study is what you need.
Mhm.
But if we decide that we're going to repair it, and that's what we're going to do, then we're going to throw $100,000 down the drain for somebody to tell you that the building's in this shape or whatever. There was lots of stuff in that 218 thing that talked about closing libraries, talked about closing community centers and everything that we haven't even touched.
That's right.
I agree that we need to go back to this document. We need to use this document, but I'm confused exactly what you're saying, Councillor Booth. Are you saying that the only option you think is worthwhile to look at is keeping the old arena as is with new ice?
No, what I'm saying is if you pass that motion right now that we're going to do a feasibility study for $75,000 to $100,000, basically that option is gone.
Why is it gone? I'm confused.
Because you're going to have somebody come here and do a study to say that we're going to build this and it's going to be this and everything like that. And it's like, there is no option of fixing.
But
We just agreed a half an hour ago, all of us, that we can't afford 10 to $15 million. So I don't know where you're getting that money from. The guy's going to come, whoever it is, with a nice study to say, we're going to build it here, you're going to this, that, and everything else. And it's like, you still have the problem where you're going to get the money. Right now, and I'm not committed to say that we repair it, but right now, that's the only viable option money-wise. If it's $2.5 million or whatever, is a lot better than $15 million.
correct. I think we're to the point where Jennifer said we set the parameters. I am good. In fact, I think we should set parameters that say, what would it take out the NHL one? We've all agreed that's beyond our means, but put that in there. But then they can also be looking at a different community center without ice. And we need to be looking at phases, because I am not at all confident that the community thinks if we're going to spend $3 million, that that's the best way to spend $3 million. And I also think $3 million is being overly optimistic, when back in 2016, they were saying $5,221,500. It's picking out a piece and saying, well, just the ice, but there's lots of other pieces. And as soon as you pull one piece, you can't not do the arena, because it is now the elevator, because it's a retrofit. Those washrooms have to get done at some point. It's not like all these other things go away. I think you were making excellent points, Brian, about knowing where we are so we can move forward.
Go ahead.
Let me just ask you one question. What's wrong with the washrooms? There's nothing wrong with those washrooms. They're not the most up-to-date washrooms. I went and used them just a few weeks ago. Are we talking about the 2 washrooms in the lobby? Or are we talking about the washrooms in the dressing rooms?
I think it's the dressing rooms where people have their concerns.
Those dressing room washrooms are standard in all of Ontario. And I've worked in multiple rinks, and I'll ask Matt the same thing. The size of the rooms are not up to what people are used to now, where they get these huge rooms, but those dressing rooms and washrooms were exactly at the Ajax Community Center in the old rink that's still running. So just because a consultant says, oh, the washrooms aren't up to, yeah, they're not luxurious washrooms or something, but you're not going to get a lot of hockey players complain that the toilet is right there with a little door on it or something.
Mayor Local,
Yes.
if I may, I'll withdraw the feasibility study. At this time, I'm not saying I wouldn't bring it back on as another motion, but I am think we're at a stage now that we could be looking at, if we're going to this, repairing and doing what needs to be done. We could be in quite a lot more money than what we even think. If we're thinking $2 million, it could be more. So I think we need to know financially where we stand. And I would like to go to the people and ask them, get direction from the public to see if they want us to spend $3 or $4 or $5 million retrofitting or building, repairing that arena. That's where I would stand.
And how would we determine that?
Public,
Using staff? No,
Public.
no, for the cost.
I guess. Yeah, I guess we would be asking the staff to come, to get their notebooks and pencils sharpened and go around and see what they think it's gonna cost.
Are you comfortable with that, right?
Again, there is local companies around here, and I can throw names, but there are two local companies that did it, that were in this area, something behind it. Most of them are new, but I know, well, the second was price, they did do, that's when you got to them, I was the job, they did right back, that's now it's the $2-3 million, it's not constant. I didn't get, someone to.
So they've already gone through and checked the roof, the building, the walls.
This was just. Lower.
Mhm. So we don't know the building.
Okay, so you're withdrawn
I
the
withdraw.
motion? Do we have another motion then? So we should.
Well,
Mike?
you know, I mean, to make a motion to you know, move forward with the repairs. Everybody talks about spending tax dollars, but we have a considerable resident that's going to make a donation, and he's literally said he wants to do it for the arena. That was his preference. And, you know, canvassing some other residents, we could maybe even make that even more inviting. And we know that there's probably some grants out there, so it's really not about tax dollars, but what we're spending those grants and the donations for that arena or something else. So, I mean, I would like to make a motion that we get staff to get us back some prices on fixing the arena floor and the boards at this point, and get us up and running with a good foundation of the floor, and then later on in steps where we want to add on to it. If we can get staff to give us that information.
Can I get a seconder for that motion? Okay, Greg? Any discussion?
If I could just add to that, so basically what we're looking for is a more updated price. Can we have Simco will come around, walk around with you, Brian, or Matt, and just say, we want a price on exactly what you think it is that the floor and everything is going to cost. Simco doesn't do boards and glass, so it's another company you call for that. And then in discussions with Matt and yourself, if there's no issues with the roof or whatever, looking at that study that was done, it talked about replacing the fire alarm system and this and that and everything else. When I worked there was nothing wrong with that. They're just going by saying, oh, you know, it's 25 years, so it's time to replace. So let's have a true cost of what it costs, Matt and Brian, to say, this is what we think the boards and glass are going to cost. And the rest of the stuff is normal building wear and tear. We're going to get those bills from the chief soon for the Roseneath that the roof is leaking or the electrical needs updating or this or that, because buildings after 5-10 years, they're outdated on some stuff and they need replacing. So that's an everyday thing that happens. So if we can just get an updated price or something, then we're not tossing around a number, because originally the number was 1.5 million. Now some of us are saying $3 million. I don't think it's that high myself, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, so through you, Mayor. Yes, I guess the price we did get from Simco, we'd reach out to them again, find out where they got that and get it all broken out. And then we'd bring that back to council, let them know what the actual cost is. If it is 2 million, 2.5, 3 million, and what's all included in those prices.
There was one mention that I seen that it was the arena needed, or pardon me, the roof needed $100,000. Are you familiar with that? Matt, are you familiar with that? We should look at that perhaps.
Through your logo, our staff, is it in their realm to go around and assess the building, what the building needs? Or would staff be reaching out to some structural people to give us an idea on what it needs?
Well, I guess this is where I get I think what Counselor Booth and Counselor Ainsworth were talking about is going back to the original one we talked about, the arena floor, the brine pipes, the boards and the glass. I don't think we were talking about the rest of the building right now, were we, or are we?
Well, that would be what I would be, that's what I'm suggesting, but. that's
I don't think it hurts that Matt, who works at the building, 5 days a week, knows if the roof is leaking, well, there could be an issue there. If the roof's not leaking, you're not going to go and inspect the roof, right? So there might be issues that Matt says that, yeah, in the next 5 years, these are things on the radar that have to be done, then fine, let's get a ballpark figure on, it's not just glass boards and floor, within a few years because we're having issues with the roof or this or that or whatever. Just we want so that we can nail down some numbers because we're looking at that report, but I don't agree with that report that was written in 218 that mentions all these things that have to be replaced.
And I don't think we know if they have been replaced too.
Well, a lot of them Chris Kerwin has done over the years, but there's some things like the fire alarm system or, the bathrooms, for an example. I use that as an example. Yeah, the bathrooms are not the most modern bathrooms, but geez, if you went to Maple Leaf Gardens up until when they tore it down, those bathrooms were the same bathrooms with a trough in there and the men's room and everything since the 30s.
Mike,
Through you, Mayor Lobo. I ran the men's hockey league in there for 20 years. Multiple tournaments on the weekends in there. And, 20 men in one of them little dressing rooms, not a problem. It was, we had a lot of fun. So the washrooms and the dressing rooms, no, it's just part of the arena, that atmosphere.
not to interrupt you, but when I was growing up and where the arena, or pardon me, where the dressing rooms are, where they were and where they are now.
Mhm.
The original ones were the same size as the men's washroom.
Yep.
That's how big they are. You might even.
Yep.
And, you get 3 people in there to dress and then the next 3 people would, that's basically what it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, we have a motion on the floor. Do we want to do any more talking about the motion on the floor? Yes.
I have one more item to mention, and we don't have the information, we don't have the numbers today to go either way. And I'm not prepared to go $2 or $3 million without going to the people and asking them what they want. And the person that came with a sizable donation did not mention the arena. The person mentioned a concept at that site. So it wasn't a specific thing. So I think that's really interesting to keep that in mind. So I can't support voting on a motion right now because I don't have the numbers or the information I need to go forward.
Mike?
I think the motion is just for staff to get us some numbers. Right? So we can have some true numbers, what it's going to take to replace the floor, the boards, the glass. And get us up and going for the next 20 years as far as that part goes.
Yes.
It's not to do the work. It's just for staff to get that information and bring us back some more concrete numbers and we're not going to pay a consultant to give us that.
No.
Come back in the next meeting or whatever and say, this is what the prices are as of today. And with contractors, Brian, you've said this to me before, a lot of contractors say that price is good for 14 days.
Yeah.
And that's life now, right? So, but at least if they give us a price now to say it's $2 million or it's whatever, then it's like, okay.
And through your mayor logo, doing it this way, there will be no grants available to us.
I wouldn't say that.
I do.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah. I think so.
Well, it's part of the whole package.
Well,
Okay.
not if we're doing the status quo and fixing it. Pat mentioned the, to get in, and there again, that is, a topic for discussion. What do we want? So we're no further ahead. We've
Well, we
been
want
want,
some costs.
that's right, that's right,
That's what we want, correct? And we're not making a decision other than getting the costs.
that's right.
I kind of think we said what we want here a few times, right?
I don't know if
Individuals,
everybody's
but
hearing
We haven't had a.
at a consensus.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to deal with what we got. We know we can't afford a new one, so we've agreed on that.
I see.
So we have to
We all
look at
agreed on
now
that.
what we can do to refurbish that arena. And I think the first thing we have to do, like we talked, is the floor. So like, I mean, we can debate and argue all day, but if we're not gonna fix the floor, then burn the thing down. We gotta fix that floor. And with the floor comes new
I don't know
boards.
that. Or,
Yeah, we got Dave here. He can help us out. But it's, I mean, I don't know why we're not, we know we need to fix the floor. That's,
But that's not what this motion's for. It's just to get us numbers. So
Yeah.
it's not
Let's
committing
do
either
it.
way, not
Let's
the
do
way
it.
your motion was, which was committing one way, and this way is just give us the numbers. If you can have it by the next meeting, I don't see it's a big problem. Simcoe usually has guys running around all the time that are willing to give you quotes. So
I would like to see that, Nicole come back with a little bit of where we are too, as far as the, what we have in reserves and that type of thing. And she can do that. Okay,
Yeah.
what, do you have anything else to add?
Yes, I think that what we are doing is not what staff came in here and asked us to do today. And I mean, we're putting it back to staff who said they don't have this time to commit to this level of project. We're trying to do another Band-Aid. We're making decisions without talking to the public. I'm good with saying, let's let staff come back if they feel. But they arrived here today and they weren't saying, you know what we really want to do? We want to take on replacing the floor at the arena. That's our recommendation. That is not the recommendation they made. It is your recommendation, but it is not theirs. We don't have the expertise in here. I hear people talking that they know more than the engineers who gave us these numbers. I mean, yes, it's fine to say that, but that's not the only numbers. I think we need to make a decision. I think you're jumping the gun there.
We're not making a decision. We're asking for figures.
Counselor Ainsworth keeps coming back. What we have to do is replace the floor. We know that, let's just do it.
And
And
that's-
that's not an option at this point.
no, but that's what I'm
Counselor Ainsworth.
asking staff to come back with proper numbers to replace the floor and what has to go with that when we replace the floor. If we don't replace the floor, that's like just ripping out the footings and letting the rest of the bottom rot into the ground. Like, that's our first step that we have to do, is fix that floor. We're not gonna change it into an NHL size arena. It's going to be that surface. So give us some numbers, true numbers today, what it's gonna cost the municipality to do that. And then let's have a vote on it.
And just to add to that, and your comment too, Mary Catherine, I don't think it's going either way. We've asked Nicole to come back with some prices that if it's 10 million or 15 million, what basically debt load can we afford? That's good information that I want to know. So that keeps that door open. I want to know the information of, are we way off the mark if it comes to repair? It is an option that we don't know yet because we haven't decided which way we're going to go. It could come back that maybe we can, take on this much debt or whatever. Maybe we can afford it or we can't, but we need some numbers to come back to us so that we have a better idea. The only danger I say about going to the public too is you got to be very careful. We're a council that's, all the councils since 2000 and whatever have put this off and put this off to make a hard decision. If we're going to do something, then let's do it, because when you go out to the public, I'm going to tell you, this is going to be split 50-50 down there. And I've been around for long enough to know people have come to me. There's a whole group of people that don't want anything to do with the old arena and they want new and a walking track and this and that and everything else. And you have the other side that they want that arena. They want that arena. Their grandfather played there and this and that and everything else, right? So it's very dangerous going out there because I don't think you're gonna end up like we are with the STRs. You're gonna get two groups and you're never gonna be able to please them. But I just want some up-to-date numbers on both sides.
Brian, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just with the last, like I said, weekend staff can come back with that, from a couple contractors and meet them on site and come up with and bring back a report, I guess probably the end of September. That's what you're asking. I think we got kind of direction on that.
Can I get a move? We have a mover and a seconder. I'm gonna call the vote.
Could you read that motion again, please?
Do you have the motion? Pat? My understanding of it is we're asking for, quote for the repairs for the ice and the boards. And we're also asking for Nicole to give us a quote on, or figures on, where we are financially.
Okay, so it was moved by Counselor, pardon? Ainsworth, yes, sorry. No, I wrote down the wrong initials. I thought I know it wasn't that. Anyways, moved by Counselor Ainsworth, seconded by Counselor Booth, that staff obtain prices on fixing the arena, including the floorboards, glass and brine. And that Nicole bring back a report on the finances.
Any discussion? Yes.
I'm fine with those two pieces of information, but I do not believe that's going to give us enough information to make a decision because we don't have options. And what this motion is leading to is exactly what you were saying, Councillor Booth, where we're going to divide the community for and against. And instead of bringing us together with something where we feel like everybody has been part of the process of deciding what we want to do. And I don't want this to turn into a divisive, and I already see that happening even within our council, and that's not what I want to see in the community.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And right along to. Did we ever have a mover and a seconder for 5-1?
I think so.
Yes, we have not. Okay. Be it resolved, the council of the township of Alma Calderman receive and file the report Holdeman Memorial Arena next steps, and further be it resolved that the council provide direction to staff. Mover and a second, moved by Mary Catherine, seconded by Mike. All in favor?
We didn't provide direction.
Yes, we did. Did
on
you
the-
not get direction, Pat? Yeah,
So we're just doing a receive and file on this report then?
yes. All in favor? Carry. Confirming bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw number 92023 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special session of council held on Tuesday, August 29th, 2023. Be read and deemed passed this 29th day of August, 2023. Do I get moving or seconder for that? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by,
Before we do that, did you not have another item that you were bringing forward?
no.
I thought at the beginning of the meeting, you said you were going to do something.
I was gonna read this.
Oh,
Just read
okay.
it,
Okay, I see. Sorry, my misunderstanding.
All in favor?
I'll
Or Gordon,
second that.
seconder? All in favor? Motion's carried. Be resolved, the special session of council of Tuesday, August 29th, 2023 be adjourned at 12 03. Almost 6, pardon me. Mover to seconder. Moved by Councillor Ainsworth. Seconded by Councillor O'Neill. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you, Brian. And Jen. And everybody else.